Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the 10th part of the Star Trek Marathon. And today we're going to be talking about the final TNG film. And this one isn't as bad as Insurrection, but I would probably put this as the second to last of the TNG ranking. Honestly, like, I would watch this over Nemesis any day. I would watch this over Insurrection any day. But yeah, it's a pretty, in my opinion, it's a pretty mediocre film. It's not that bad, but it's not that good either. Um, so, yeah. So this was actually directed by Stuart Baird. If you're a fan of like 80s and 90s films, you guys may know Stuart Baird more as an. It's really hard to grab stuff from a shelf when you like literally right next to it. You may know him as more of an editor than a director, but he edited such films as the first Superman film, and I think you know he's way more of an editor than a director, because when he edits a movie, it's fantastic. But it when he directs one, it's like not really a strong suit at all. Um, like edited. I don't know if he did the sequels to this. I don't know if he did like 2, 3, and 4. I know he did the first one, and he did the first two Lethal Weapon films. So he's a competent editor. But as a director, I'm not really sure. And it wouldn't it wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't a Star Trek film, because it's well publicly well known that he is not a he's not he wasn't well known in Star Trek. So trying to you know get the actors the way that like trying to like make a film and off something that you don't know what it is, it's very difficult. Um but so yeah, this was made on a budget of $60 million. Domestically, it only made 43 million, and worldwide, it made 67 million. So this is a bomb. This was a bomb at the time, which is really unfortunate because I think there's a lot of stuff in this film that really worked or really works. There's a lot of stuff that here that doesn't really work, and I will kind of talk about that when I get to it. And this was released on December 9th of 2002. So by this point, no one was really into Star Trek by this point, because we're in, I would say, about the second season of Enterprise, and no one was really watching that. And obviously, and then this movie comes out, and then barely, like, it still made 43 million. That's a lot of money, but compared to like Star Trek First Contact, which made like over um like it made like 150 worldwide, and this one only made 67 million. It shows you that the franchise was dying out. Um, Thankfully, they did bring it back with the reboot, but I'll talk about that in the next few episodes. Um, so yeah, so let's talk about that plot. So Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, diverts the starship Enterprise E from its scheduled trip to Commander Riker, played by Jonathan Frakes, and Counselor Troy, played by Marina Sirtis, uh, to their wedding to negotiate a peace treaty with the Romulans. Picard is shocked when Shinzon, played by Tom Hardy, the new praetor of the Romulans, admits to being a clone of Picard. When the crew members discover a break-in on their computer, they are forced into a life or death battle to stop Shinzon's warbird, the Scimitar, before it can destroy the Earth. Um, so yeah, I guess this is kind of like the final, um, the final main timeline Star Trek production that showed the Romulans as bad guys, kind of. Um, yeah. Because obviously, like I said in the plot, they're trying to negotiate a peace treaty with them, and obviously Shinzon is in the way, and he tends to destroy Earth. Um, uh, I'm I'm honestly kind of mixed on my feelings about this movie. Not a it's not a bad movie, but it's not really a good movie either. Um, I guess if I would have to describe this film, if Star Trek Insurrection was a bad TNG episode, this is like an average TNG episode. Um, and then like Generations is it's a good TNG episode, and then and then First Contact is like a excellent TNG episode. Um, but uh, there's there's a lot of stuff I'm kind of conflicted on about this movie. Um, it's I'm just kind of hard to kind of explain it because, like I said, I don't hate this movie. It's not like a Star Trek Insurrection kind of thing where I it's an utter bore to watch. Um, like I could probably watch this movie and then be like, okay, that was a pretty good story, but there was a lot of stuff in there that I'm like just on. Um, it's ugh. It's a very mixed film. There's like I said, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of bad stuff. Um, might as well talk about the new cast members. So we have Tom Hardy as Shinzon. Now Tom Hardy has gone on to do a lot of good stuff recently, but in this film he's just a very mixed bag. Some like in some scenes there's in my favorite scenes where I'm gonna mention it. There's one particular scene where I think he does excellent in the role, and there's some other moments where I think he does pretty good. Other moments he is just straight garbage, and I don't know what happened. It's just like a flip flopping quality with his acting, and it's just very weird. Um, so obviously he is like the younger clone of Picard. So basically, it's like Picard's blood and then Romulan blood. So over the course of the film, he goes from regular kind of Tom Hardy with like obviously the costume on to like over the course of the film, he gets so it's explained that he's dying and he needs a blood transfusion with Picard, and if that happens, then Picard John like the our Captain Picard is going to be killed, and Shinzon is going to be still alive. So obviously we can't have that. Um, so like over the course of the film, you could see like his skin kind of changing, like on the sides, like you could see like the Romulan kind of blood like seeping through, and then by the end of the battle, he is basically turning full Romulan, actually not even Romulan, cause he was, I guess spoilers, he was raised in a Reman prison kind of planet, so obviously he has Reman blood inside of him. So when he starts turning into, or his condition starts getting worse, he starts turning more Reman. Like the color of his eyes starts to get washed out. Like it's more like a light gray blue color, and like his skin's starting to turn like a more Reman kind of look. It's turning more gray. It's getting like bones are starting to pop out, and that shows you that he's kind of getting weaker. And I think they could have done a lot with that, but They don't really go anywhere with that. They just like basically as soon as he starts getting weaker, Picard uh they have this well uh I'm not gonna get to that part yet. We have the director Stu Baird as the Scimitar computer voice. I didn't really maybe they put a filter over his voice, but it just sounded like some like generic guy just doing like a computer voice. Unlike throughout all the series and like I think even like some of the early like throughout the TOS films, it was I believe Gene Roddenberry's wife who was doing the computer voices for TOS, TNG, the TOS films, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then eventually um, Enterprise. I don't know if she did the computer voice for the reboots. I'm not sure. Um, we have a cameo appearance by Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher, which I don't think actually no, he did not appear in any of the films until by this point. But even in this, he has like a little cameo, and I think in the deleted scenes he has an extra like an actual scene. So he actually, I mean, I would have actually preferred that scene being in the film because then I would have been like because in the film I'm like, is that Wesley? But we had that deleted scene in there, but I'm like, oh, okay, so Wesley is here, and like he actually kind of appreciates, the crew that he formerly worked on, because you know he actually cares. Uh, we have Kate Mulgrew as Admiral Catherine Janeway. So this is I don't know how long it is. So this is I think it's 2379. This film was taking place in, and at this point, I believe Voyager must have been home for I believe about 9 years now, because I believe by the final episode of Voyager it was 2370 sorry. So by this point she probably most likely would have gotten a promotion to admiral. But yeah, she's basically the one that says, "Hey, Picard, this what you've been asked to go and do these peace negotiations um with the Romulans." And um and so yeah, and then we have probably one of my like this is one actor that like I never really heard of until I started watching some of his films, and then I really started appreciating him more, and that is Ron Perlman, mm, who plays the Riemann Viceroy, uh, Kruk. I think that's how you say it. Well, I don't know. So the Riemann Viceroy. So this was the first film I've actually seen him in, and then actually researching about this, looking into his filmography, I realized that he did Alien Resurrection, and he eventually went on to after this. Actually was the first Hellboy released in before. In, the first Hellboy might have been released before this film. I think it was Alien Resurrection. Well, actually, the City of Lost Children, and then Alien Resurrection, and then Hellboy, Star Trek Insurrection, and Star Trek Nemesis, and then Hellboy 2, because I know that was in 2004, so that was after this. But I'm not sure if. Yeah, it must have been in 2001, I believe. But yeah, I started appreciating more Ron Perlman as an actor when I figured out that he was actually in an Alien movie, and I'm like, this guy actually has. Um, this guy's actually really good at acting. Um, and then we have Dinah Meyer, sorry, as Commander um, Donatra. I believe that's how you say it. So she's basically the Romulan that comes to help the Enterprise E take down the Scimitar because she figures out that, like, he wants to destroy Earth, and obviously the Federation and the Romulans don't want that. So basically, Shinzon is a rogue Romulan basically, and he just wants to destroy Earth and then have the Romulans be the ultimate life form in space. Um, so yeah, that's about it for the cast members or the new characters. Um, so I guess I should talk about my favorite scenes. Um, so I'm probably have like only like two favorite scenes in the film, which is surprising for a Star Trek film because I should probably say like the whole film is my favorite scene. Um, but my first favorite scene is going to be when it's right before the final battle where um uh Picard is trying to talk to Shinzon saying like you don't have to do this. We can talk something out, and he goes, "I'll see you in your ready room" or something like that. So Picard goes into his ready room, and Shinzon is there. Um, but not really, because he's like a holographic projection of Shinzon, but he can still talk to Picard. As he sees, like, because he stands up in the chair and he walks through the desk, and he's like, oh, okay, he's a hologram. But he's also able to communicate with Picard. But anyway, this has probably the best, in my opinion, the best acting from Tom Hardy and Patrick Stewart in the whole film, because Picard's trying to talk him out of this and be like, you don't you don't have to do this. Like, you could like we could try and help you. You just don't have to destroy Earth in the process. And he goes, basically, Chantal's like, no, I'm not going to do that, and then cuts it off. But that's probably like my favorite acting between Patrick Stewart and um, Tom Hardy. And my second favorite scene is, I'm just gonna say it, it's gonna be the final battle between the Enterprise. I believe it's two, but maybe three Romulan ships versus the Scimitar. Because that scene is awesome. It's it's probably like the highlight of the film, honestly. Like, if you watch Star Trek Nemesis, I'll tell you right now, you watch the whole movie for that scene alone, and at least that's better than Insurrection, where it's basically just a whole bunch of boring nothingness, and it's like this one's actually kind of exciting because it's kind of like the last teen. Well, at the time, I'd say around from 20 from this film up to like 2017, 2018 ish. We thought that this was gonna be the final film in the main timeline. Because after this, all that was uh everything new, anything that's new in the Star Trek world was Kelvin timeline. We got Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond, and then we got Star Trek Fleet Command on the mobile game, and then we got like the Xbox 360. So basically, like there was a time when the Kelvin timeline was gonna be like the new Star Trek era, and then obviously we started hearing rumors about a Star Trek 4. It which, speaking of, is that dead? I'm not sure. Um, so that's kind of like on and off right now, but um, but now we kind of got. There's no new films yet, because obviously the last film was Beyond, and that was in 2016, and obviously there can't be one now because of 2020 and the pandemic that's going on right now. But um, in terms of like any new Star Trek content, we obviously have. So we got it confirmed. I believe. Well, we know we got a season 3 of Discovery coming out. I believe there's a season 2 of Picard coming out, and we do have trailers and announcements for Star Trek Lower Decks, which is a new Star Trek animated series. Um, which really quickly, I think I think a new animated series would be fine. You know, I was actually because I love the animated series. I honestly think that that's the last 2 years of the five from it. I could watch TOS and then the animated series as one because I could see that as the rest of the 5 year mission. Um, but I honestly think that they could have done a new Star Trek animated series that isn't trying to incorporate every new thing that you know every animated series now is trying to do, like South Park or Family Guy. Because honestly, I'm starting to see that as one of those, and that's really kind of disappointing. So, am I going to watch any episodes of Lower Decks? Probably the pilot, and then I'll probably consider, and then I'll see what I'll do for the rest of the show. But for the trailer that I've seen, it's not really convincing me. It's I just see it as more of just like, hey, let's take what we took from, let's take the good stuff or like the funny moments from like South Park, The Simpsons, and Family Guy, and would stick that into a new Star Trek animated series. And I don't think that's very good at all. But I guess we'll find out when I see the first episode of the Lower Decks. But I guess Star Trek's kind of like in a kind of new it's kind of back now. Are we getting a new movie? I haven't heard any news about it yet. Not sure, but we obviously know now that Star Trek Nemesis is not the final part. Is not the finale for not only the TNG crew, but also for the main timeline. Cause this was the latest, and then we got, like I said, the Kelvin timeline films, and then finally in 2019 we got. I mean, obviously we got Star Trek Discovery, but that was before even TOS. Um, but obviously now since we got Picard, and now we know that they're being. When are they going to film it? Not really sure, but we know that it is confirmed that Picard is going to get a second season, and especially now with Lower Decks, even though I may not like it, I may not like it. Probably not. Other people wouldn't, but at least we now know, but that Star Trek Insurrection is not the finale for Star Trek, in terms of the main timeline. Because honestly, as a finale to the main timeline films, this film is pretty crap. But if you just watch it now, knowing that it's not the finale, it's actually a pretty good film. Um, and just like an average Star Trek film, but knowing at the time that this was the finale, it's not a very good film at all. But um, so yeah, um, so like I said, as a finale, this film sucked. But now, obviously, with Picard and Lower Decks, it's not really that bad. Honestly, compared to Lower Decks, this I'm gonna say it. Star Trek Nemesis compared to Lower Decks feels like Shakespeare. Cause honestly, I'm not really interested. I'm gonna watch the first episode, see what's gonna happen, see if I'm gonna watch the rest of it. But I guess I'll find out. Um, so the visual effects I want to talk about. Um, they are very nice. This is the latest Star Trek film in the main timeline so far, and I think the visual effects look amazing compared to Insurrection. Obviously, it's not going to compare to physical models like from Generations, First Contact, or any of the TOS films, but it still looks like they tried. Um, I mean, at least they have like the shininess to like the ships, and it doesn't just look like a 2D model that someone put up on Windows Movie Maker in 1999 on a Macintosh, or at least tried to, and they failed. Um, but I think the visual effects have certainly improved from Insurrection, and the glossiness and the shine really makes it look like, hey, they're actually moving instead of just an Insurrection where you would see the shine, but it's very just flat, and like it just looks like someone just like like took like the Enterprise Z model, sprayed it with just a flat color gray, and then tried to shine a flashlight on it. It just looks plain. It looks flat. It doesn't look like a ship. It just looks like a toy in Insurrection. But this film, they got it. I can tell it's CGI, but I can appreciate it more because I can see it as they tried, even though it looks obvious that it's CGI a little bit. I could appreciate it more than Insurrection. Um, was it ILM that did the visual effects? Not sure. Hmm. It doesn't say. I'm I'm not sure who did this. Hmm. It might have been ILM. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'm gonna look that up right now. Okay, so I just looked it up, and the company that did the CGI for this film is Digital Domain, who have worked on a lot of good films, and I think this is honestly very good. Like I said, um, the visual effects and like everything else, I think looks fantastic. Um, but it's obvious that it's CGI, and I think they probably knew that. Um, but I think it still looks very good for the time, and like I said, they looked a lot better than Blue Sky Studios, which I believe by the time they were working on Insurrection, I think they might have had, I think, one film under their belt, so it was very, very difficult for them to make convincing CGI effects after only working on one film. I kind of forgot to mention this when I was talking about my favorite scenes. Um, but might as well mention it now since I'm getting near to the end of my review and I don't want to forget about talking about this. So spoilers. I already mentioned that, but screw it. So spoilers. So at the end of the film, they defeat Shinzon, which is very kind of graphic for a Star Trek film. They kind of like he kind of charges at Picard in the scimitar, and Picard just takes this kind of pillar or this pole, cracks it, and goes like this, and he just runs into it, like he just impales on the pole, and he just slowly starts like grabbing each and just starting pulling on it, and Data beams over, uses the portable beaming device on Picard so he can go back to the ship, and he sacrifices himself to save the crew, save his friends and crew, and the ship blows up, and they have a memorial service for Data. And earlier on in the film, they go down to this planet, and they found these robotic parts that look like Data, and they think, well, is it lore? Like, who else? So there was. So now, currently in the timeline, there's three different versions of Data. So or three different androids made by Dr. Soong. There's Data, there's Lore, and now there's this new android that they call B4. Um, and they kind of take him under, like they bring them back onto the Enterprise, and it's eventually revealed that B4 was planted on the planet for them to bring back to the ship so that they can figure out the location of the Enterprise. And so Data eventually deactivates him, but unknowing to us at the time, until the ending of the film, the Data actually, like, without keeping it, like, with keeping his own memories, he transfers all the memories and all the things that he's learned to B4 so that because he knows he's most likely going to die at some point. So he transfers his mind, his like everything that he knew over to B4 while still having some in his mind, so that he can help save the crew and sacrifice himself to save the crew. And the ending after, you know what? My third and fourth favorite scene. So my third favorite scene is when Picard says goodbye to Riker, who has now become captain of the Titan. Um, where um, they they meet up in Picard's ready room, and Riker goes, "It's been an honor serving with you." And Picard goes, "No, the honor was all mine." And I literally felt like crying because obviously at the time when I first watched this and over subsequent viewings until our most recent one, this was the last time we're gonna see any of them, and it's very sad. Um, but obviously with Picard, and you know, it's obviously not the end. Um, but then Picard's talking to B4, and as he goes to leave, B4 starts singing "Blue Skies," which is what Data sung at the wedding at the beginning of the film. So it's like Data's still here technically, but it's now we're gonna have to call him B4, and it ends the film with a nice, beautiful shot of the Enterprise E being refitted, and I think that's probably the best ending to any Star Trek film of all time. Obviously, with some exceptions, with 2 and 6. I think this is honestly the best ending to this. Like, this is my third favorite ending of all time of the Star Trek films. Um, so yeah, so the fun fact I have is this is actually pretty well known, but the cast from the Next Generation did not get along with the director Stu Baird. Like I said, is mostly an editor. So, like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, Stu Baird is more of an editor than the director, and and also like I said earlier, he was not very well known he did not know a lot about Star Trek. So when he did this film, he doesn't know the lore about this film, and so the cast were getting pretty angry with him, and um, it's kind of uh, it's kind of sad that you know why not just do like it's literally honestly it's kind of easy do like what Hard Bennett did for Star Trek for Star Trek 2. Granted, the original series only had 3 seasons, and Star Trek and TNG had 7 seasons, which was like over like 200 episodes. So granted, it's gonna take a really long time. And I believe it was a massive. The production was on a massive time crunch. So maybe watch the most important episodes to kind of get the idea of what Star Trek is, and then go and do it. Because then you're like, okay, now I know who Captain Picard is. I know who Troy or Data. And, I know all these characters. But obviously he didn't, and then we got left with a film that's pretty. It's a very mixed bag. Um, and and the same thing with Insurrection that I mentioned. Um, or might as well just say now. The composer is. This is the last Star Trek film to have composer Jerry Goldsmith on board, because this was in December of 2002, and by early 2003, he unfortunately did pass away. Um, so basically, I think when you watch this film, you are listening to Jerry Goldsmith, and um, I think this is actually his best score from his late years. Which I think I basically it began with The Mummy, and then ended with Star Trek with this film, and I honestly think that this is the best score out of that in like that era, because I know that's The Mummy's score is fantastic, but this really brings more of an emotional core to me, knowing that this was his last film. And oh my god, phone, can you shut up? Um, I just know that was his last film, so basically, whenever I listen to the score, I think of him. So I'm gonna say this right now. This video is basically dedicated to the late Jerry Goldsmith. Um, you have brought so many good soundtracks to all of us, and we all really appreciate it. We will miss you, Mr. Goldsmith. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think this film had a re-release for the score. Um, Unlike all of the previous films who have gotten a remaster and a new expanded soundtrack, with so the first film had 3 CDs. The second Star Trek 2 only had 1 CD, and then the rest of them had 2 CD soundtracks. This is the only one that hasn't. Actually, no. Besides First Contact, this is the only one that has not gotten a re-release yet. Because I know First Contact did get like a 1998 re-release, and that's been, I believe, out of print for a while, along with the Nemesis soundtrack. Um, so if you want to try and hunt these soundtracks for First Contact and Nemesis down, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to find than I would say for like the Motion Picture or Generations or Insurrection, or any other TOS film, because those have been, remastered and re-released. Um, so I just really wish that whoever owns the Star Trek license for all the movie soundtracks can do a re-release for First Contact, and like a new expanded soundtrack for Nemesis and First Contact, because I think those are very good scores, and I don't think really anyone can get them anymore, because I don't think they're on digital. I'm not sure, but whoever owns the rights to First Contact and Nemesis, please do a remastered soundtrack with 2 CDs and with alternate cues, and I believe that would be a very good soundtrack to release. Um, so yeah. So anyway, guys, so that was my review of Star Trek Nemesis. It's a very mixed bag. There's a lot of good moments, a lot of bad moments, but I think that this film just very much deserves a 5 out of 10. It's a very average film with a lot of high points and a lot of low points. And unfortunately, in terms of films, this is the last main series film. And for the last 3 episodes, we're going to be talking about the Kelvin Timeline films, where starting off with uh, the 2009 Star Trek, which is actually was surprisingly very good when I first watched this for the first time. Um, but you guys are gonna have to wait till then to oh, see my opinion on Star Trek, the 2009 film. So, hope you guys enjoy, and see you guys for tomorrow, when I'm gonna be talking about the Star Trek 2009 film, and the 2 days after that, where I'm going to be talking about the rest of the Kelvin Timeline films. So stay tuned till then, and live long and prosper. Out.